Hey, what is up, guys? It's Giltspire here, and welcome back to Champions of the Fog. How y'all doing today on this marvelous Saturday afternoon? Today I am joined by Joker. How's it going today, Joker?
Going pretty good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Cannot complain. We are here today for round number 7 with Sacred Devotion versus How Did We Get Here? That being said, I am actually letting these two teams know that we are good to go, as we are looking to jump into game number 1. So I am quite excited here to see what Sacred Devotion, formerly Prestige, is going to be bringing to the table as they are jumping right on in to the Thompson house. With it being this late in the season, Joker, what are your thoughts on the killers that we might see today?
It's going to probably be a ranged killer of some sort, I imagine. Billy, even though he's not really a ranged killer necessarily, Billy has very good uh, momentum on this map, I feel. Huntress might be a really good one. I could see a potential Deathslinger here, maybe an Oni, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point there. With that being said, I think mainly what you're looking for here is mobility-based killer. I think Billy's definitely a good one, unlike Blight, who requires some collision to work with. So that is a really good question. With that being said, doing a quick build check, and we do appear to be good to go. And with that being said, we won't have to wait long as we see the Huntress. So maybe you're right in saying ranged killer.
Yeah, it's Huntress. I don't know. Maybe it's just a pub sting as well. It's just you always seem to find Huntresses and Billies and stuff on this map.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wide open area, so if Huntress is able to box him out of these tight tiles, it would definitely be a good place to be. Unfortunately, Huntress not able to land their hit here on this, had a really good shot to do so as well, but it's consistently winding up and does get the hit on Meg. But Meg playing it dangerous and goes for the pallet drop, but Huntress keeping that in mind and dropping her to the ground.
That was a bit of a greedy play by the survivor there. Once they got to the first time, they should have just made distance instead of sticking around for that pallet.
Yeah, I do agree. However, we do hear 2 totems go off in the distance, but looks like Claudette here trying to be a wee bit sneaky and ends up getting punished for it as she was attempting to go for the unhook.
Yeah, Claudette usually a sneaky one. Unfortunately, not this time.
Yeah, I think just playing a little bit too aggressively around that hook, real speaking. Huntress here trying to box these survivors out, doing a pretty good job doing so, and trying to line up the shot for the unhook, and just barely getting a miss there. If it was a little bit higher, may have been able to make it work, and once again, very close shot.
Yeah, this Huntress is taking some very bold shots here, almost calculated risks, almost. Just narrowly missing on some of them.
And we see why. We see exactly why they're taking some bold plays, that they do end up getting the hit on the Claudette. So those risks paid out in dividends.
Yeah, that was a nice snipe. You can't even be mad at that. That's just tip your hat to the killer on that one.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a rocky start initially from what we're seeing, but, it definitely shows that Stitch here knows what they're doing with the Huntress, but at this point in time, with no hatchets in hand, it means that these survivors are in a fantastic position to potentially recover early on and potentially try and get some gems.
Yeah, and as we did see there, the Claudette is broken, which would suggest a deli was used.
Either that, or if we wait a little bit longer, could also be a second win. We'll have to give it some time, but more likely than not, you're probably correct in saying that. But Huntress,
That's
once
right on the
again,
top.
taking a look around, trying to get a hit at that gen through the gap and is able to get the shot through. But as far as he's playing a little bit more wary, or we're just on the other side, avoiding that hit. I also do want to mention for all those viewing, you might notice something new. We do have a bit of a scoreboard now that does update in real time. That is the final score overall, so do keep that in mind. But Huntress, we do see trying to find someone at the Thompson House and does get a whiff of them, but not able to catch up by the time that the survivor is out of that loop. Unfortunately, though, looks like Giraffe here, not able to make enough distance on that drop down, will be taking a hit and now in chase.
We say that they do go down.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you kind of predict the future. Once again, Huntress with some really cheeky shots.
You would be. It's still mind-boggling to me that you're able to like hit through these like little itty-bitty gaps with certain killers.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it happen with the likes of Deathslinger before. Huntress obviously put in some work, and fantastic shot on Giraffe. Unfortunately for the Huntress, BT was activated, trying to get another long-range shot, but no dice there.
Up by the barrel. Tis unfortunate for the Huntress on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a blind shot, but definitely has the right idea, as we do see Meg here on the meat tree taking it, and now we also find Giraffe as well, who does end up going down. It looks like Huntress looking to get the two-man slug here, as Meg does end up at Shack, and will eat the pallet, but will also get the down through it.
Extremely unfortunate for the Meg there. If they would have been able to get that stun off and not eat the hit through the stun, that would have really helped them. But as we say, that Giraffe, it does manage to get up though, so they're recovering slightly from this.
At the very least, they're not able, you know, the Huntress doesn't get a 2-for-1 there, and the survivors are cranking out gens, I will mention, so they're not going down without a fight.
Right, we're only down to 2 gens left, and considering some of these shots the killer is hitting there, it's a good thing that they're doing so.
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, I will say they are playing smart. If you look at the gen spread, these survivors are actually in a pretty good position where there isn't really a great grouping of gens. So if they play smart and utilize their hook states accordingly, I think that these survivors still do have a very good chance of at least getting a 2-man out.
It's possible. It seems that the closest 3-gen, if you want to even call it that, as we see a nice shot through the corner like Claudette there, seems to be on that left side, from the back side all the way down towards the Thompson House. So as you mentioned, not exactly a tight 3-gen, but if the survivors can capitalize on that, then they should be able to get out with at least a 2 or 3-man.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And being a little bit aggressive here, as we do see Feng Min on that gen, but dodging the Huntress in the corn, making the Huntress miss there, and though she will drop the pallet, she will be down nonetheless.
Yeah, like you said, that was just aggressive positioning by the survivor, and then on top of that, is an unfortunate waste of a pallet there, because it's like, you know, you're pretty much going to go down at that point,
it's
so
one of
there's
those
no real
rough
need
things
to drop
against builds like Huntress. You just can't really utilize those pallets to your advantage for the most part. And Huntress, once again, doing a fantastic job of getting some of these nice hits through the corn, kind of predicting the movement of these survivors in real time.
My hat goes off to this Huntress, man. They're hitting some pretty nice shots.
Yeah, definitely showing what they can do, but I think at this point in time, the best thing to do here is to probably reset and then make an attempt on the unhook. We already have seen Deliverance used, so it is unlikely that this survivor's going to get off the hook before they reach second stage.
Yeah, like you said, the best thing for the survivors right now, just get the hard reset. One person, as we see right now, I believe it's the Claudette, you know, maybe take attention of the killer, Really nice cheeky shot there, right above the hay bale.
So overall, what are your thoughts on the Huntress's, pressure thus far?
They're really doing a good job of pressuring the survivors. I mean, you have one person on hook who has progressed to the second stage. You have one survivor down your shack here, and then the other two, as we see now, just now getting reset. But the survivors are kind of put a bit on the back end here. They do get one gen popped though, so it's up to the survivors right now to make the play.
I 110% agree. And these survivors trying to come back on in and get this unhook, but just not able to make it happen, as we do see that survivor about to go onto death hook for the next 30 seconds or so, as we do see that timer ticking down quite slowly.
I don't even know if you want to call it a misplay from the survivors or anything like that, but it just seems that, as I say, that one does go down trying to get the save, but I don't know, it just seemed like either the communication or the coordination was just a bit off there, because I don't know that that person should have died on foot. Like, I feel like they would have and should have been able to reset better, and then, like, attack it a bit better.
Yeah, the biggest thing to keep in mind in this situation is the fact that it is definitely a difficult position for these survivors to come back from. I definitely agree with you that resetting would have been the right move in this instance. But at the same time, it definitely can take some form of coordination, which, newer comp teams might struggle with.
Coordination, communication does vary from teams as well, so it's like, not every team has the same call. That's be a nice night at the edge of the Thompson house there. It's different from team to team, so it just takes time. But I think that's a GG. Unless Unbreakable was not already used, I feel like that might be a GG.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to say. Of course, there's that chance of Unbreakable, but at the time that these survivors have been on the ground, chances are that it would have already been used. So more likely than not, that may have gone along with the survivor who has already died thus far.
Yeah, I think you're probably correct in that assumption.
But with that being said, looks like the Huntress is going to clean up and now has to find the last survivor on ground before they are able to locate Hatch. Of course, with the new update, Hatch has yet to spawn, so it will give the Huntress some extra time to meander around, and does end up finding a slug unless they get brilliant RNG. Just ain't gonna happen. And surprisingly enough, it was right there, directly to their left. A little bit further there, they would have been in a prime position to get the one man out.
That is just extremely unfortunate for the survivors.
Absolutely. But that being said, overall, not a bad showing. As we have mentioned before and many times again, How Do We Get Here is a newer comp team and is still learning the ropes. So 4 gens completed is still not too bad, resulting in 14 points for the survivors to 41 points for the Huntress. So good round for both sides, as we do switch things up with How to Get Here as killer and Sacred Devotion as survivors. So overall, I think we went over kind of our general thoughts on the situation at hand and what could have been done a little bit better. As far as Huntress is concerned, they played very relaxed. They're doing a fantastic job of, utilizing their abilities through and through, and really able to capitalize on the range, available to her at all moments.
Yeah, and it's like you said, on top of the fact that it's a corner map as well, so while Huntress is a good pick, or ranged killers are usually a good pick, or just high mobility characters are a good pick on this map, the fact that sometimes the corn can be a little hard to see through at times, that the Huntress was just able to take pop shots left, right, and center and connect on the majority of them. So just hats off to the Huntress on that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With that being said, we are now in lobby with Hammy as the killer, representing How Do We Get Here. And once we get builds going, we'll be jumping into game number 2 for How Do We Get Here versus Sacred Devotion. So if you had to guess here, you already mentioned we saw a really good play from Huntress. We have seen Hammy play Billy in the past. Would you like to think a Billy is going to be coming here on game number 2?
I feel like it's hard for me to say no against a Billy. I feel like we're going to see a Billy at some point. If we don't see it in this round, or this particular match right now, it's going to be hard for me to say that we won't see a Billy on this map. I feel like this is just Billy's playground.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of open areas. We did see with that Huntress, it definitely is a potential for Billy to kind of get those cross-map plays, allowing him to get a lot of good pressure in a lot of different situations. But with that being said, I do think that there are options for other killers as well, but I would like to see some Billy. We have seen a little bit here and there, but not too much.
Yeah, so it's like you mentioned, Blight would probably be one that you wouldn't typically see on this map just because of how open that mid area is. Nurse is also obviously just a really good choice on this map. Let's see, I think I said Oni as well would be, in my opinion, a pretty decent choice on this map. Deathslinger, those would be my big go-tos in terms of killer for this map.
Yeah, I definitely would say that Oni wouldn't be half bad. My only concern with Oni, realistically speaking, is an instance that he really does need to get those initial M1 hits, which is much easier said than done, especially against competent comp teams. So that would be my only concern in that regard.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point to bring up, yeah.
But overall, definitely am intrigued to see what is brought to the table, as we are now officially just waiting on one build from the survivors before we give them the go-ahead to move on to game number 2. Right now, as I did mention, How Do We Get Here a little bit behind, but not by all too much. The game isn't over yet, as realistically speaking, it's only a 27-point difference. So if, in instance, we do see a 4K here from How Do We Get Here, I think they will be able to bring it back.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, the survivors did manage to get 4 gens done. So realistically speaking here, the killer comes back strong with the 4K. I think even with the 4K and the survivors completing all the generators, I still feel that would be a strong showing.
Absolutely, absolutely. With that being said, we are good to go for both survivors and killer builds alike, and we'll be jumping right on in once again with How Do We Get Here as the killer, this time on the Thompson house. And I'm putting my bets on Billy. How about you? What's your final guess?
Sorry, Mike was muted. Yeah, Billy is my final guess as well.
All right, well, let's see if we are both right. Will only be a few moments before we jump on in and are able to confirm. So overall, what's your thought here on Thompson House? Your own personal playstyle. Are you protecting the gens over by Thompson House? Or are you protecting the gens over by Shackside and Meat Tree?
I would realistically protect the gens around Thompson House only for the simple fact of how open the side near Shack is. So, especially that whole side with Meat Tree or the Combine or whatever that spawns there from time to time, and it's so open over there that I feel like it's easier to protect Thompson House, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. As we did see, though, in our earlier games today, I will say that if the survivors do place a balanced landing up at Thompson House, it can be a really difficult position for the killer to come back from. So that'd be my only concern with those gens, but I guess it really does depend on the gen placement and RNG.
Yeah, that is also very true. because if you happen to have like a really strong 3 gen or 4 gen on the side in your shack, then obviously you don't really want to stray away from that as much as possible.
Yeah, I would agree. But with that being said, we are just about loaded in. DBD taking its sweet time since the vent update. So, gives us a few extra moments. Speaking of the update, what are your thoughts now that everything has been moved from PTB to live?
I still don't think that the built to last change needed to happen. I felt that built to last was not super, super strong, but I felt like it was in a really good spot where it was previous to where it is now. Like, to be fair, yes, now you have to wait in the locker for 12 seconds. So it's obviously less time spent on generators, but it's still a very good and at least a really strong buff, in my opinion, that didn't necessarily need to be happen to occur, rather. Vigil got an interesting buff as well that I didn't quite expect. Um, so I don't know exactly how I feel on that, but I will say, and I'm very adamant about, or not adamant about this one, very passionate about this one. I don't understand the reason to rename the perks for the whole, you
That's
know,
more licensing, less more of
I
a
would.
choice
That's
by
kind of what I
behavior.
figured. That's kind of what I figured. That might have been the case because if it wasn't, I was like, I don't get the reason to do that. But if that's the case, yeah, that makes more sense.
It is, and I will mention here, we've been on this loading screen for a hot minute. Now, I have seen the forever loading screen experienced by a number of people in pubs. I did not know it could also be a thing in customs as well, as I get a feeling it shouldn't be taking this long. I don't know if our competitors are also experiencing a similar issue as of this moment, and we'll have to reference Discord real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are you in match? If so, we may need to restart. No infinite load screen. Okay. In that case, it looks like everyone's going to have to Alt F4 their game as we are experiencing the infinite load screen. Like I said, first time that I have seen this in customs of all things. So we will be running it back here momentarily. I think once everyone does do a full disconnect, we should be good to go. For how do we get
Yeah.
here and Sacred Devotion in chat, if you could let your representatives know as much, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, like you said, I've never seen that happen in customs. It's usually just a known thing in pubs. It's kind of weird. I would have thought that I don't know. Pubs has usually been decent of, like not being super buggy outside of what was it, a few patches ago, where it was in customs you were able to like actually get blood points or something like that,
Yeah,
like
that
as
is
if you were
true.
playing
That
pub.
is true.
That was only the one time, I believe. So it's like outside of that, customs is usually not the buggy one. Why are you doing this to us? Dead by Daylight, why? Why have you forsaken us?
And for those saying that consoles do take a bit longer, I will agree, but not usually that long. And it looks like on both sides, everyone was just locked up in the load screen. So we will be restarting. Tis unfortunate, but it is what it is. But outside of, obviously, a change of build to last, we have seen some interesting results of the buffs on killers like the Plague. What are your thoughts on the Plague buff, as we did see Plague earlier today played in comp?
I will admit I'm not 100% sure what they changed with her. So what was it exactly that they did with her?
So the biggest thing that they did to Plague was that her speed when you finish vomiting used to be a little bit more decreased. Now it's pretty much as fast, if not I wouldn't say, I don't think it's faster than a survivor's run speed, but basically you don't lose any distance. So if you're on their back and you're vomiting down their shirt, you're not gonna lose any distance, and they break in front of you, you whack them real quick, and it's a quick 1-2 punch, where before, you actually were able to gain a little bit of distance.
Okay, yeah, with that being the big change then, in my opinion, I feel like that makes her a bit more viable to play, because I feel like that was probably a deterrent for a lot of people in terms of, like, not playing her. Like, obviously, you could still very much play around it, and, like, the way it was before, and, you know, try to make up the distance and stuff like that, but it was definitely a lot more difficult. So I feel like with that change, I feel like it might make her a bit more comp viable, or at least maybe not to the extent that we see, obviously, like the S tier killers, but I can imagine we will probably see a bit more plagues.
Yeah, I would definitely tend to agree. I think that Plague is just very, very strong right now. And I'll be honest with you, I've been having an absolute ball using Blood Favor on Plague, as Blood Favor did get a slight tweak from the PTB to live, as it does now indicate that when a survivor is injured, that Blood Favor activates. Before in the PTB, it would not work the same way, where if you infected someone and it broke them, it wouldn't block the pallets. But now, however, when they become broken, Blood Favor activates, and man, survivors do not expect that, to say the least.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perk to run on her for sure. I think I would agree with you there in that sense, that it would definitely catch a lot of people off guard.
And I would agree. But with that being said, you know, what else are your thoughts on things like Spirit? You know, we have seen content creators as of recent, not going to name any names, but say that basically at the new add-ons, Old Spirit is basically back.
I feel like while I don't know, it's difficult for me to say necessarily if I feel it was a good or bad change that they did to her, because obviously new add-ons, old add-ons gone, some reworked, etc., etc. I feel like she's still in a really good spot, though, in my opinion. Like, yeah, she may be a bit easier to counter now, so to speak, in terms of, like, chasing, or, like, mid-chase, rather, I should say, against especially, like, really, really good survivors, but also I feel like really good killers will be able to, like, still mind game and stuff with her. So I still feel like she's in a really, really good spot, all things considered.
No, I definitely agree with you there. And when I said Old Spirit, I'm not sure if you ever played Old Spirit.
I don't believe I did.
How it worked, basically, is that Spirit in Phase Walk had collision, which was a huge, huge factor. So you're still able to track via sound, via scratch marks, but on top of which you could collide with the survivor and subsequently hit them as soon as you did. So you touch the survivor and go, ooh, piece of candy. Unfazed, swing. Pretty much that's kind of how Old Spirit worked. And though Cheats doesn't have collision at this point, with things like Cherry Blossoms, with the Killer Instinct, kind of the same way, you don't get that collision, but you know pretty much where they are.
That's a fair thing to bring up. I would it's very interesting how they kind of sort of pseudo brought that back. I can't really speak too much on that. Like I said, I didn't really play the old Spirit necessarily, but I'm interested to see how it works out.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious. Going into S2 right now, we do have those Killer Instinct add-ons currently available to use. We'll see if that changes if it does find itself being a little bit too powerful. But for now, we'll have to wait and see what the Spirit does end up bringing to the table.
Yep, gonna just have to wait and see.
Indeed, indeed, but with that being said, we did give the lobby the go-ahead to ready on up, and we'll be trying to once again jump on in with Hammy for How Do We Get Here, playing as Killer versus Sacred Devotion Survivor Team on the Thompson House. As of this moment, How Do We Get Here is currently down by 27 points, so it is not a losing battle, but they will definitely have to get probably upwards of a 3, if not 4K, to bring it on back.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. It's like I said earlier, I think even with a 4K and all of the survivors completing the gens, while they would still be technically in the deficit, I believe, in terms of points, I still feel that that is a strong performance, and it at least helps narrow the margin. Or narrow the gap, I should say, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But with that being said, we are back to the scariest part of Dead by Daylight, and that is the loading screen. Let's cross our fingers and make sure that we actually get on in. You know, knock on every piece of what you have, pray to the entity, and let's hope that no more loading bugs come to play today. As we are once again waiting here for a quick moment, we'll give it a bit of time as consoles do take a little bit. But we don't want to wait too long, of course, as DBDB, and, you know, we haven't had this issue all of today, but sure enough. So, you know, all things considered, I will have to admit, though there have been some bugs applied with this update, you know, circle of healing, crashing survivors, infinite loading screen, disconnects from store, made a list only go on. I will admit, if we ignore all that, the update's pretty good. Like, this is probably one of the best updates they've got in a very, very long time. However, I will say, this infinite loading screen bug is a bit of an issue, at least for comp leagues like COTF. So that is a wee bit concerning as we go into now about a full minute for this load screen. We'll give it a few more moments until we decide to pull the plug to show everyone where we're at. Right now we are... Oh, you can't see it right now. We're right here. We're still here. You know, I'll admit, maybe behavior, maybe the graphic department just really wanted us to pay attention to the detail and love that they put into this, because it does look pretty good, I will admit.
Yeah, perhaps. I always do like how they change up the loading screens with each festive update whenever they come out with them. I always think they look pretty cool.
Agreed. But we are going on to the 2-minute mark now, so I'll give it an extra 60 seconds. And I'll have to wait and see. Just letting the lobby know that I'll let them know when to restart, as we are moving into the 3-minute mark, and I think at that point it's probably the infinite.
Seems to be.
'Tis unfortunate, but we'll have to wait and see. So, I guess I will give the lobby the go-ahead to disconnect. And we'll be restarting Dead by Daylight across the board.
As they rest in pepperonis.
Yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. You can't do much when the game decides it does not want to play nice. And sure enough, Dead by Daylight feeling like that right now, going, you know, I want another 15 minutes of sleep. It's like when you wake up for a school day and your parents come to wake you up, and Dead by Daylight's just going, no, 15 more minutes.
Yep, I know that feeling all too well.
I feel that. That's how I was this morning when waking up for the games today. I was like, okay, you know what? We'll take I'll take another 5 minutes.
That would be me for school. I would be like, alarm would go off. No, just 5 more minutes, please. It would snooze it again. No, just another 5, please. And I would just be in this endless cycle and just crying internally.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You know, that's what snooze buttons are for, after all. Just keep on pressing them, and eventually it will stop. Maybe. But
Or eventually you'll just lose your mind and then eventually just wake up frustrated.
exactly. But yes, all praise the infinite DVD load screen. Like I said, the graphics department just really wanted to show off what they had. That's all. I think that's what it is. They just said, you know what? We don't get enough recognition. These load times are too short. Let's make them infinite. Yeah, that's a great idea. Infinite load times.
Big brain plays by the graphics team.
Exactly. Well, we'll give it a few more tries. If it does become a persistent issue, as this will be our third attempt for this trial, we might either have to try this offline. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see, get all of your guys' thoughts on if your guys are willing to wait it out. It looks like we might also be switching up our killer and hoping that maybe the infinite load screen is only a thing with console players, which would suck if so.
Yeah, that would.
I would not be surprised though. Console has definitely gotten the short end of the stick on many occasions when it comes to Dead by Daylight's bugs, so would not be outside of the realm of possibility.
Sucks, man. Us console plebs just want to play and have fun too.
I know, but it do be rough on the console side of things, but I believe that we're going to be switching things up, and we're going to have Denzophage as the killer for How Do We Get Here, trying once again to get into game number 2. Make sure that I do have them added so I can be invited to the lobby, and I do. I just need to wait for them to get in lobby, which they are now, so members of Sacred Devotion, feel free to join at your leisure. All right. Take number 3, right? Third time's a charm. But looks like we should be good to go on survivor builds and killer builds alike, as they already had them prepped and ready with pubs. So I will give them the go-ahead as soon as they join, and do confirm that the map is set correctly. All right. Yeah, DVD, not a fan of Hammy for one reason or another. Fingers crossed that for future matches, Hammy will be able to participate. At this point in time, we are just waiting on one last survivor, and we'll get things a-going. So, you know, honestly, we saw a few different changes for killer and survivors alike. Final bet, are we still saying Billy Boy for Thompson House for How Do We Get Here?
Yeah, I would have to keep my bet on Billy. I mean, it's obviously not impossible or out of the realm of possibility, as you so like to quote, that we can see a different killer, of course, but my bet is within that group of killers that I mentioned. I would be surprised if we don't see the Billy.
Yeah, I definitely would like to agree. At the same time, we did see a change from Hammy to Denzophage, and I will admit I do not know off the top of my head what Denzophage specializes in, if anything.
That's also true. You never know. It could be a Wraith as well. It could be a Ghostface. It could be I could maybe see a Plague on this map. Maybe. We'll just have to wait and see.
Exactly. With that being said, you know, I will admit, I am kind of curious. We saw a Plagueler today who got a significant buff. Do you think at any point in time we might see Trappers seriously used in comp?
I'm not gonna lie, man. I don't really know, and I honestly don't think so. If I would have to guess, I would say no. Only unless if it was like, not necessarily a throwaway game, but maybe just kind of like a meme game, or just giving something else a try kind of thing, like last ditch effort. I got nothing else. Let's try something. Let's throw it out there kind of thing. Even with the changes to him, I still don't feel that. While obviously, yes, there are people who could do really, really, really well with him and like create a lot of map pressure with him and stuff like that. I feel like it would also depend on the map slightly, but I just feel like he is just not in a good place, in a comp setting, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, I can definitely admit that, especially in Season 1. I will admit in Season 2, Trapper getting a little bit of a buff in comp-related things, but I will say we are good to go for builds, and we're good to go in the lobby as well. So let's jump right on in, and sure enough, it is a Trapper.
Ah, okay, Trapper, interesting.
So I believe that we may have seen DenzoFH actually play Trapper before in COTF, but I could be mistaken. It could be someone else that I'm thinking of, but he has set up quite a number of traps around here. I'm not sure if there's any strategy to the madness or just put them all in the corn to try and maybe get a surprise trap as they do meander throughout, which could be an interesting play, as we do see Trapper decide to trap their totem.
Trapper obviously very good at keeping survivors away from their totems and other pallet loot place, like really strong loops. It's also not exactly uncommon for, trappers to just kind of place them randomly throughout the corn because they can sometimes be difficult to see. It just kind of depends on survivors, of course, and if they're keen on it.
Yeah, that is fair, though I will admit, as we do see Trapper Sack being used, keep in mind that those traps that are put down cannot be picked back up. But we do see an insta down here suggesting that one of the totems that was cleansed was Haunted Ground.
Haunted, such a strong perk for him too. To be fair, Haunted is a good perk for most M1 killers, at least in my mind, because if it pops, and obviously you're able to get like a lot of pressure onto the survivors and a lot of downs, you get a slugfest going, it's almost a GG at that point.
Absolutely, we actually do see some payoff here, as Trapper did get a trap and will get a hook here in the middle of the corn, which, I don't really say that the Trapper has a web of traps, but I would argue in this case, it kind of looks like he does. It's almost like Hag here, with all the traps out in the corn, and survivors having to be careful of where they step, as these are unorthodox trap placements, which might work out in the Trapper's favor, as survivors might not expect and run into one by mistake.
It's always really unfortunate whenever you accidentally run into one like that, because it's just like, man, I'm good, we're golden, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that, or whatever. Oh, nope, I'm in a trap. Never mind.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate, but if survivors kind of play this like Hag and kind of stay away from the Trapper has set up, this will be a pretty good way to gain some distance and overall, keep the Trapper busy as your team might disarm the traps elsewhere. This is why things like Iridescent Stone might be useful in future instances, where we are debating whether or not that will be allowed in Season 2, and I think Trapper Sack Eerie Stone would be very, very strong, even in a comp setting.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely agree there. I think that combination would be a really, really good and really strong for him. I still feel it would be map dependent though. However, because obviously you don't really necessarily want to use it on a super, super large open map, but I still definitely feel that that combo would definitely be a strong combo for sure.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens come Season 2. I will admit that I was surprised Dia almost ran into that trap in the corn. I think maybe Trapper walked away from the chase, someone that she would just continue holding W and would run into it, but was not able to make it work, as we do see a life here go off and Trapper disengaging in chase. So it looks like Trapper just gonna try and protect these gens out in the corn, trying to get these survivors to step in traps to try and give them some good pressure. But Survivor's being very careful and maybe calling out where the traps are, though definitely hard to provide landmarks, given that all your landmarks are is nothing but corn.
Yeah, it's usually just if you're running in the corn, you either just say I'm running in the corn or I'm mid-map. Like that's really all you can say there, and then just try and pray that you can get to a tile safely.
Exactly. I do also want to point out something. Can anyone else point out? Oh, I see why. This makes more sense. I was like, how did they get that totem with the trap still armed? And I realized it must have been haunted ground, where upon getting the activation, they ended up creating that, or making that a dull totem in that moment. But Trapper trying to get this down on Jake, but just not able to make it happen as Jake is throwing pallets left and right to make some distance. It looks like Trapper may have gotten bamboozled as they have lost track of where he may have gone, and is now going back to this gen, taking a lot of time to kick the gen. As a reminder though, when you dry kick a gen like that, it is only 0.3% per second, so it takes upwards of 4 seconds just for 1% on that gen. So for the most part, it is not recommended to do so, unless you're able to guarantee survivors are not on that gen for an extended period of time.
Yeah, it's just really, and this is where I think the other downside to playing Trapper is that he, without his traps and without being able to place down the traps mid-chase, because most survivors will obviously, you know, just pull W if the Trapper decides to do that. It just makes it difficult, because then he just becomes a completely M1 killer, and you just have to try to mind game and get, you know, bloodlust to get the hits on the survivors, or the survivors have to completely block.
I think probably the strongest set of add-ons now for Trapper would arguably be Iridescent Stone and Trapper Sack, as that allows you to set them up in, you know, tiles like LT Low, Shack, and other strong loops, much like Mitri, where, you know, survivors are able to normally loop 2 or 3 times in a row, and, you know, really extend those chases. But if you're able to lock down those loops, as you saw there at Mitri, it does put a lot of pressure on the survivors and really shortens those chases in a fantastic way that, you know, grants Trapper the pressure necessary to potentially get a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have to see if that change ends up going through for season 2. But yeah, as you mentioned, like that would be arguably not meta for him necessarily, but I feel like that would be probably the strongest go-to combo for him.
And there are some other combos that I will say I do like Bloody Coil, and what was it? Bloody Coil, and I think it's the new Oily Coil. Basically when you go to this Armor Trap, you end up getting injured. But when a Trapper rearms the trap, the last person to disarm the trap ends up getting revealed for like 3 seconds. So you can kind of see where that can go pretty quickly.
Yeah, and because you could also tell, you know, like where they went, and you can kind of like mind game them a little bit with that, but you could also use it as just like an information gathering perk, as just like, okay, this is where they were, there's probably still someone around here, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So there are some interesting combinations that could come into play with this new Trapper buff. We do see these survivors walking for each other quite often here, as Kate is the one with the medkit looking to try and heal up, and Trapper potentially being keen on that idea, but looks like might be checking out the Thompson house instead. Unfortunately for Trapper Boy, it doesn't look like they find anything, as there is only 0 gens remaining for these survivors.
Yeah, the survivor's able to kind of bring this back, so to speak, and I don't know, it was a decent start by the Trapper, but it seems that it slipped away just.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you in that regard. So I think the best case scenario here for how do we get here is to get this next down and camp them to death. But we'll have to wait and see if this other exit gate is getting open as we speak. If so, that will be a dangerous position for the Trapper as they do chase off the gate and are able to get the hit. But with the other survivors coming on in to open it up, I think this will be a 4-man out as of this moment.
That's what it's looking like.
It is a difficult position for Trap Boy to be in without any traps. At that point, he is just Mr. Machete Man.
Yeah, not much you can do as just Mr. Machete Man. You can only try.
That'll be 1, 2, 3, and there's the Jake for escape number 4. And he doesn't go to the dance for us. You know, he wants to show off his stuff before he leaves. That's all.
Gotta get your groove on, man.
Exactly. So we're looking at 50 points for survivors and 16 points for the Trapper, resulting in how do we get here with 30 points and Sacred Devotion at 91 as we move into game number 3, this time on Azarov's resting place.
Ooh, Azarov's. I haven't seen that map in a good while. That's a good map.
It is. We actually did play on that earlier today, and as per usual, very good map for 3-gen focus killers.
Yep, it's definitely up there. I can agree with you there.
All right. So, if we are looking at this, I definitely think at this point in time, Game of 3 is going to be very, very important for how do we get here, as they are probably going to require at least a 4K to try and make up that last match and have a chance as they go into game number 4. So we'll have to wait and see if Denzophage will be playing once again for how do we get here, or if they will be subbing out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. I feel like you need a 4K, and I feel you also need to make sure that the survivors do not complete as many gens as possible, which means we might potentially see an S-tier killer here, just to try to help create a lot of map pressure.
Yeah, that will be interesting. I also want to give a huge shout out to Joker for helping commentate here, blind, as due to the resets, I forgot to re-share my screen, so shout out to you, Joker, for that one.
All good, man. Thanks.
Oh,
Fair, man.
But I believe we're going to get confirmation from how to get here right now. Looks like Denzophage will be killing again. And we'll have to wait and see what build they bring to the table on Azarov's resting place. I mean, I know for me, Bubba's like a go-to for obvious reason.
Yeah. Yep. All I can say is yep. Bubba is obviously a really strong pick here. I'm trying to think of other killers that would also be really strong here. I don't know. I feel like I've seen a Hag be a decent pick here as well. Trying to think of other killers right now, but I'm blinking.
Hag is not a half bad one. The big thing is if a comp team knows how to play around a Hag, you really just send out one, survivor to harass the web consistently. And if you're able to do that, then it's kind of just doing the same thing that you do with Trapper. Disarm the trap, Hag has to reset, rinse, repeat, and it's kind of rob Hag of all that value.
Yeah, true. It's going to be interesting to see what killer they choose to bring here, but I still think it's probably going to be more than likely an S-tier killer of some sort.
More likely than not. But we are getting confirmation from how do we get here. And looks like confirmation. Looks like we are going to be bringing out Hammy again, attempting to get into a match. Fingers crossed that we are able to avoid the infinite load screen.
It really is. infinite hammy, and it happens to be console related, I'm going to cry and feel very bad for.
I mean, to my knowledge, I do believe that it is mainly when console killers are playing, is when it results in the infinite load bug, unfortunately.
It's unfortunate because, to be fair, I have had that as well with not as a killer but as a survivor. Like I've had that happen quite a few times within the last few days that I've played. Uh, so it might just be a console thing that we're obviously unaware of.
Exactly. But we are getting the lobby all set up in the meanwhile. And yes, unfortunately, as I am seeing in chat, Pig is banned. So is Twins at this moment. Right now, there are 3 banned killers. Cenobite because they are brand new, figuring out the balance and whatnot. Twins because apparently you can't crush the uncrushable Victor. And finally, Pig because reverse bear traps just ain't able to be removed. You know, mind you that in comp, they aren't really that viable anyways. But if you can't remove them, they will go off at some point, and I don't think I want to be that last survivor left in the trial with that ticking time bomb on one's head.
Yeah, I actually had that happen. Not necessarily that specific scenario being the last one, but I was playing a pub game and we were on Wrecker's Yard, and it was a pig. I went to go take off the trap because they had, what was it, the eerie videotape, so we all started with the trap. I went to go take the trap off. I take it off, and all I see, literally throughout the entirety of the trial, it stayed there, was just a floating trap.
Yep.
Just stayed there.
Yeah, that seems to be pretty
mind-blowing.
consistent. I've also seen that upon being unhooked with a trap on your head, you're unable to move is another thing. So, 'tis unfortunate, but until for the nose, Pig and Twins are currently banned.
Dead by Bug Light. We love this game, but we hate it at the same time for all these bugs.
Yeah, it is one of those things that we kind of expected at this point, though we do always hope not to see it.
Yeah, one can only hope and dream.
Exactly. But we have gotten the builds from the survivors. Just went on confirmation of the map change from the killer. That'll be jumping into game number 3. Once again with Hammy from How Did We Get Here as the killer, and Sacred Devotion on survivor side. As a quick reminder on the current points, we're looking at How Did We Get Here with 30 points and Sacred Devotion with 91. So currently a 61-point game. How Did We Get Here? How Did We Get Here? Needs a very strong game number 3 to try and stay in it. I would say if survivors are able to get a 4K out, that there will be the swan song, and Sacred Devotion will secure their victory.
Yeah, I think at max you need one person to get out, or to not get out. Excuse me. Or you need to only let one person out if you are How Did We Get Here, because if you can get the 4K, even if they complete all 5 gens, but if you're able to only let one person escape, I feel like even though that one person escaped, I think it's a bit of a stretch, maybe a long shot, but they have a chance there.
Yeah, you're not wrong. As long as they're able to somehow bridge the gap. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing here. You know, in Season 1, as of this moment, you know, all 5 gens are currently worth about 20 points, which would extend their lead upwards to 81 at the very least. So they're going to need at least 20 points to make it 1-for-1, and then get some additional points to try and bridge that gap and bring it back in within 50 points for Survivor's side. Probably a little bit more than that, of course, because that would be assuming the killer does not get any hooks on game number 4.
Which, to be fair, we have seen before. It is rare, but it has happened.
This is true. It is not outside the realm of possibility, though at times is unlikely, unless the survivor side is quite experienced. And not cutting, How Do We Get Here anything short, but it would definitely be impressive if we did see that from them.
Yeah, it would be extremely difficult, but it would definitely be a hats off, kudos to how did we get here if they would be able to do that for sure.
Exactly. But we are once again in the dreaded load screen. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, pray to the entity, what have ya, that we are able to get in the game, as we did test it earlier with Hammy and Giraffe prior to this match to see if Hammy was able to get in the match. They were successfully. Let's see what happens this time round. We'll wait a little while as we did before, suggesting that maybe console load times are a little bit long.
Now, I'm also wondering if it's a potential old gen issue versus new gen
Oh, you mean next gen
in terms
versus
of
new gen? I
console.
see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that could also maybe potentially be a thing. So if Hammy here happens to be a PS4 player instead of say a PS5 player, it could be maybe PS5 players aren't having that big of an issue, or Xbox One players aren't having that big of an issue, but maybe it's just the old gen that is.
Yeah, that is
Which still,
definitely a
even so, it would suck.
possibility. Unfortunately, don't think Behavior wants us doing bug tests. I don't think the community wants to have to figure it out for them as well. But we are
Yeah.
sitting here once again on the load screen. We'll give it another minute and 30. But I get a sense that this is not going to load through. Yeah, I can understand Hammy wanting to take a week off of Dead by Daylight, at least as killer. Survivor, I have not seen any issues from Survivor's side. But it is appearing to be infinite load screen. We'll give it one more minute before calling it, just in case. You never know. I've had instances where I have console players loading up with me on RPD, and it literally takes forever. But I have never seen the issue of ARP or Azerov's resting place. That does look
Yeah,
like
I feel like it happens more so with specific maps as well. It
it.
seems, at least, I don't know.
It usually is like on some of the more graphics heavy maps, like with RPD versus ARP, but still.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree there.
Looking like it is once again infinite load screen, and I'll let them know to please DC. And it looks like we'll be getting Denzophage from How Do We Get Here as killer once again, as it appears that it might be a Hammy issue, and I do apologize, but it is what it is. Dead by Daylight says, no sacrificing for you. 'Tis only Survivor from now on.
This is a feels bad man for sure for Hammy. Man just wants to play killer.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel bad, especially in comp play, but the show must go on. And looks like I would recommend to all teams for the foreseeable future until we see a hotfix from Behavior that you have your killers be PC based. As it does appear that at the very least, with whatever platform Hammy is on, it is causing an issue. But if it is next gen, that's not looking great for last gen either.
Yeah, that's if it is next gen, that's really unfortunate.
Agreed. But that being said, let's jump on in lobby one more time. Once again, we are looking for How Do We Get Here on ARP as the killer and Sacred Devotion as survivor. As a reminder, as far as points are concerned, it is a 61-point match, 30 points for How Do We Get Here, and 91 points for Sacred Devotion. But already have the build from the killer. Everything looking good to go. Just need a screenshot of the map. And then we should be able to jump right on in. All right, everything's looking good on my end. And we'll just have to wait for this virus to enter in the lobby, and we'll be jumping right on in. And thank you all for, bearing with us here, as sometimes hard to navigate the bugs that Dead by Daylight throws at us.
Yeah, it does sometimes make our lives a lot harder. To be fair, it also does make the devs' lives harder because then they have to try to fix what they didn't think was broken to begin with.
Indeed, especially with this update, as it does seem that there are quite a number of significant bugs, from game crashes, infinite load screens, and more. And from what we're hearing, it does seem that we have a new chapter coming up in November as well. Supposedly, and this is all hearsay, we're looking at a PTB on the 9th.
Oh, wow.
So, and according to what the leaks have been showing so far, it is going to be an original killer and survivor.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see what they do there. I mean, it's obviously always fun to see and speculate what a new or original killer would, or survivor would be, what their power would be, what their perks will be, etc., etc. But I feel like they should also still try to focus on the bigger issues at hand here, like, the maps being a bit buggy, the perks that are being buggy and causing all these crashes and issues and things of that nature.
I would agree with you, and more likely not, they're already working on those updates, of course. I would not be surprised if we did not see a... Oh, am I set as survivor? Am I set as survivor? No, I'm set as spectator. Lies and slander. I do believe that they're probably already in the works. The hard part, of course, it seems like the majority of the bugs as they stand are currently affecting console, as we see a lot of the crashes happening on console, circle of healing. Obviously, infinite load screen seems to be console focused on killer side. So, with that being said, it's going to be interesting to see, as normally those type of updates that they're going to have to push through take a bit of time to get certified by Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. So that will be the hard part with these major bugs.
Yeah, that is also something we do have to keep in mind, which is, obviously very unfortunate because it does, kind of delay things as well from that perspective, because we're just sitting here just frustrated and waiting and hoping for, the fix to come in, and then it never really gets here, and then it's just like,
Yep, but with that being said, it looks like we are in the lobby as we speak, and we see someone we haven't seen in quite a while. If anything, I don't think we've actually seen him in COTF. We see the Ghostface.
Ooh, Ghosty boy.
I actually love myself some Ghostface. I do not use them as a, insta-down killer, as a lot of people tend to do with the stock. I really do focus in on him as a stealth-based M1115. Would I argue that he's better than Wraith? No, but I would also say that he's probably one of the best stealth-focused killers in the game, as he is able to hit survivors out of stealth without any penalty or notice.
True, and to your point, he's just able to be really sneaky and just sneak up on survivors and bam, gotcha, surprise. Like sometimes you're not able to completely catch on to him, and it obviously kind of depends on the playstyle of the killer as well, because are they going to try to use his power a lot and go for the exposed status effect on people and try to play him that way, or are they going to play him maybe a little bit more so like Ray, to the extent of just having to sneak up on people and just catch them by surprise?
That is true, and we do see that the playstyle of this Ghostface is going for those exposes, and does get it on the Nia, using that lean to their advantage to get the exposed status effect on her, and Animal Ear is activating, giving this Ghostface a little bit of information, and Nia loops back into Ghostface and gets insta-down.
Unfortunate loop back there. You always hate to see it whenever you accidentally loop back into a killer, or like you get grabbed or you just get downed instantly. It's just like, well, I goofed.
Yeah, it definitely is a rough moment, no doubts about that. But Ghostface so far doing a really good job of using their power to their advantage. We see once again trying to lean around these corners to get the expose on Jake. Instead, getting hit by that flashbang, which does gain that Jake some distance. So I will say that expose, or the degree of expose that they have on the Jake, is going to be quite significant here, as they'll only take a few moments for them to get the exposed stat applied to them and go for the insta-down.
Yeah, and that's something that I never honestly knew with Ghostface that you could do, where you could do it like Mikey to an extent of just like 90-90 people in terms of like the stock. And it's just like, I never knew that was something that you could do as him, but then learning about it is like, okay, that's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, no, 99ing a injured survivor or another survivor for a later chase is actually a really huge play, as we did see here with the Jake. But looks like Ghostface potentially dropping chase with Jake, or trying to go for a cheeky mind game. Not sure what the play was there, but don't think it worked out all too well, and instead are going for the Nia, who has shown that she does not have decisive strike, but does have bounce landing, as she will make some distance here after she drops off that hill and goes back to the pallet at Shack that Ghostface did not break earlier.
Yeah, I think the Ghostface might have noticed that it seems that the Jake is the one running them pretty well for the most part.
And
so they might want to avoid him.
I also do want to note here, for those keen-eyed players, we do see some snapshot auras when gens are completed, suggesting a Rancor being in effect as we speak. And I'm sure that the survivors have noted this as well, and we'll have to keep that in mind at the end of the match, as the Kate is going to be in a very weak position, being potentially exposed and insta-killable.
Survivors here put in a very interesting situation, as you mentioned. It's always, in my opinion, like a rough situation, especially in an open map, because you know, Ghostface and killers like Mikey and stuff like that, like they can see through the corn for the most part, because they're able to see the outlines whenever they're stalking and whatnot. So it just makes it that much better for them, because if they're able to kind of just like, you know, patrol the middle of the map, so to speak, and just like get a bunch of stock off of people, it helps them so much.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we do see the chase once again being dropped on the Nia, and attempts to get these survivors off of the gen here, but just not able to make it happen. Not get a hit on either the Jake or the Kate, as they are able to avoid them pretty quickly. And that'll be another gen for these survivors. And looks like Denzophage this time going for the Kate. Understand that she is the Rancor target, but wanting to get a hook a little bit early here.
Yeah, it's always interesting to get the killers, or to understand the killer's perspective of trying to go for the Rancor target, considering the fact that like we have mentioned, they do have Rancor. So I mean, I guess to be fair, it does give them more points to get the hooks from them, but I feel like you going for the Rancor target, I don't know, it just seems to be a bit of a weird call in my opinion.
I would tend to agree, and Denzophage trying to punish the camp on the pallet, but swinging a little bit too early, I will say, as we do see the last gen pop off, and looks like they will be attempting to go for the Kate to try and reduce the number of points that these survivors are able to claim. And Ghostface trying desperately to get that hit on the LT wall. And if I'm all ears, able to see where the Kate is going, and we will see one of my favorite Moris in the game.
Oh yes. We do love Ghostface's Mori.
Indeed, indeed. But unfortunately, I will say that that will give the survivors enough time to go for the exit gates and get a 3-man out. Looks like, however, might be at the wrong exit gate there. And that is one survivor out. The question is, where's number 2 and 3? There's the second survivor out, and last but not least, resulting in 38 points for Sacred Devotion and 14 points for How Do We Get Here and the Ghostface. Total score at this moment in time, 44 to 129.
Yeah, that was, despite having a few brief moments there within the game of good plays and having a bit of an upper hand in certain situations, that in my opinion is like the dagger for this game, unfortunately, for How Did We Get Here.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but they did put up a good fight. With that being said, we will be ending with game number 4 with Sacred Devotion as the killer. We'll have to wait and see who that might be and what killer they decide to bring. One thing I will say about these game number 4s that we will have to cherish is the fact that we do get to see some meme builds, some killers that we wouldn't normally see, like Trapper and Ghostface. And also kind of relax a little bit, have some fun between the two.
It's true. This is true. Gotta take what you can get, man.
Exactly. The reason why I say that we'll have to savor these moments is actually because we do have a new win/loss system going into Season 2 that will be announced here momentarily, so do keep that in mind. Keep your teams informed, as the captains will get a hold of that first, of all of the new Season 2 rules, which should be going out probably end of day tomorrow. Give or take maybe a few hours here and there. So overall, what would you like to see here on game number 4, Joker?
Like you said, I just want to see some meme builds. I want to see, like, power struggle, breakdown, just bunch of meme perks. Literally, just try and have fun. See if you can maybe toy with the killer a little bit. I imagine the killers here will probably be a lower tier killer, one that won't be used all too often. So just to maybe not get it out of the way necessarily, but maybe, like you said, just to have some fun.
Exactly. Well, that being said, lobby is up, and we are once again on Azarov's resting place. This time, Pally as the killer for Sacred Devotion, and the survivor team for How Do We Get Here will be joining here momentarily. I personally, you know what I'd love to see? We saw Ghostface today. We saw a Trapper. I would love to see either a Michael Myers or a Legion.
I would honestly say probably a Myers. I would like to see a Myers.
I would even
like to see I would even venture to say I want to see a demo dog. I want to see a puppy.
Demo's not bad. He's actually a lot better than people give him credit for, but I would definitely like to see that as well. I think still my two hopes are Legion or Myers.
Yeah, for sure. Those are definitely up there as well.
But with that being said, we are slowly but surely getting the survivors into the lobby for game number 4. And this will be our last match of the night, and as a reminder, the Sunday Division is pretty much over, so no matches tomorrow for Champions of the Fog. Instead, we'll be back live again on the 30th for Cerebral Assassins vs. Monarchy at 10 a.m., Immortal Alliance vs. Sammeltex at 12, Object of Depression versus Undyne Alliance at 2, Prestige vs. Red Side at 4, and last but not least, Cookies versus How Do We Get Here at 6 p.m. CST. So definitely make sure to follow the channel when you are ready. Alright, and at this moment in time, we are waiting for Survivor number 4. And we'll kick things off. So Denzel Phage, if you are attempting to send a link, unfortunately Twitch will automod it. due to the fact of links being restricted here. You'd have to send it over to one of our mods in order to send it in chat. All right, and first 2 survivor builds are in. Looking good so far. State Devotion's killer build is in. That is good to go. And last but not least, we just need those last 2 survivor builds, and we'll kick things off. And Skell, are you able to spoil anything for us? Do you know what palette is going to be end up playing? Is it going to be a Legion? Is it going to be a Myers? What are your thoughts there? All right. And I do believe that they are PC-based, so I do not believe we're going to have to run into any issues with the infinite load screens. Fingers crossed, knock on all wood, and once again, pray to the entity. And we are at this point just waiting on the last build and last survivor. And looks like our last survivor that will be joining is Hammy for How Do We Get Here?
Well, at least he'll be able to play Survivor. Sadly, not Killer, though.
Yeah, like I said, it seems that the bug is specifically centered around console players on Killer. And looks like Dentalphage has informed us that they now officially have 28 Ghostface Moris. Actually, I've heard on a few occasions of people, mainly Ghostface mains, collecting a scrapbook of all of their Moried survivors.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's on flavor, It is,
that's fair.
And as Pyrusian is asking, it would be impressive if all 28 are in comp, but I do believe that that number's probably not in comp alone. Though if you're able to get 28 Moris all in comp, that would be actually pretty cool. Or rather, mainly 28 Moris with Ghostface specifically.
That I was gonna say, with him specifically, I feel like that would be like one of the more like ultimate flexes, so to speak. Be like, oh, what did you do? Oh, I just have casually 28 Moris, as Ghostface in the competitive setting. No big deal.
Exactly. And for those asking, the 4th is loading up as we speak. Consoles do take a little bit of time to load up, but it looks like they will be joining right this moment. And we'll get things started up for the last match of the day. Once again, as a reminder, this is How Do We Get Here versus Sacred Devotion. And this is round number 7, which means, actually, let me take a look at the schedule. How many more rounds do we have? So we have 8, we have 9. Yeah, we only have basically 3 more weeks to go after this one, until we do go to playoffs for both divisions. So that will be quite exciting, to say the least. And Season 2, for those who are wondering, we are looking at probably starting up in January. Not wanting to have to worry you guys with all the holidays in December. So probably January is our start date, rough estimate. For everyone who is interested in participating. And as a reminder, if you guys either are a team or know of teams that would be interested in joining, please have them send me a message ahead of time. That way we are good to go and can get you guys all set up. All right. And I believe we are waiting on just one more person now. We got Hammy in. Unfortunately, it looks like a PC had to do a quick reset. Once again, always DVD doing DVD things. Throwing a wrench into things. So we will be getting our 4th in here momentarily. But as we are waiting here, as I mentioned before, based on Leaks Joker, it does sound like we have a new survivor, new killer coming to the game. Been seeing a lot of talk of maybe a perk or some change to basement happening soon, that people would like to see it. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? Would you like to see a change to basement or a perk that specifically, interacts with basement in some way, shape, or form?
That would be interesting. Like, I don't. I'm kind of curious now as to what that they could possibly do in terms of that, like maybe like interaction or anything like that with basement, and whether it would be like with the survivor or with the killer, for example. Um, Hearing that's definitely intriguing. I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah, no,
I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts on it, to be honest. I'm just really curious now.
Yeah, I've seen some people say that maybe like the basement gets blocked off from the killer when someone gets unhooked in basement as a perk, that way giving them time to heal. Doesn't really do much against a Bubba, for example, but a cute idea. I've also seen some people say maybe a perk that allows you to wiggle off a little bit faster as they get within radius of the basement, make it harder for killers to hook you in the basement. Would be a cute perk. Wouldn't see a lot of play, but would be cute nonetheless. So I think there could be some interesting ideas.
Oh yeah, for sure. I could definitely see maybe something like that. That would be definitely interesting. But like you said, yeah, it definitely really wouldn't be used all too often, I would imagine.
Yeah, so we'll be interesting. But outside of that, if we talk about killer, what would you like to see as a original killer? Obviously we have the Chun Chun Cowboy, we have the Alchemist, the Blight. What would you like to see, though, as a OG killer? Maybe something that is winter themed, since it is coming out in November.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Something winter themed, maybe. I don't know. In my opinion, I still think it would be a really cool idea for a killer to have like a power to be able to like polymorph into one of the survivors.
Well,
and then
fair,
you have to figure out like who they are, basically.
Initially, that is what Legion was going to be based on their reveal. Obviously, not the case. So, I don't know. I just don't foresee that probably happening. Maybe it'd have to be a time thing, because fact of the matter is, playing against a Swift would make it very easy to be able to tell who is who. That'd be my only concern there. Otherwise, things that have been added to Creative Commons recently that are fair use for pretty much anyone is like werewolves, vampires. So that'd be kind of an interesting thing if we might get a werewolf killer, maybe a vampire killer.
Yeah, no, like any kind of beast killer would also be pretty cool. Like, I don't know, maybe even a Cyclops killer or something to that extent, I don't know. I feel like the possibilities in terms of what they could do are, I wouldn't say endless, but you have quite a few different possibilities in terms of where and directions of where you want to go with the killer in terms of the design, their power, all this other stuff. But I would have to agree with you. I would like to see like another like animal based killer or animal themed killer, and maybe a winter themed. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, that would be cool. That'd be cool. Imagine if we get the Grinch as a killer.
Oh, that would be
Throws
funny,
lumps of coal
dude.
at you.
Dude, that would actually be funny, and then the background music would just be his theme song. That would be amazing. I would love that.
It would be amusing. And actually, Arctic, I love the idea of Medusa. It's been something that I've actually talked about a lot on my stream, where it's basically like a reverse Ghostface, where you get slowed down for more time that you look at them, which I would love to see. But that being said, we are in the lobby, and we see a Bubba.
Bubba, yes. Pretty typical on this map, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good killer because he gets him on the hook. You just kind of sit there and go, okay, what now? On top of which, you're just able to get a lot of good distance with their chainsaw. A lot of people not understanding that his chainsaw is not just for shredding or insta-downing survivors, but also a way to, maneuver around the map at the same speed as Legion, which is actually pretty significant. A lot of people do tend to forget that fact.
Yeah, I think it's mainly because, you see so many people use Bubba in the sense of only using his chainsaw for the downs and for, the shreds on pallets and stuff like that. You usually don't see a lot of Bubbas using the power for the mobility aspect. We have seen a few, to be fair. I believe there was one instance, I believe last season, I think it was Cade, I want to say, or Temp Babylicious, I'm pretty sure. He was one, and there might have been a couple others, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But they were the ones who used the power to get around the map.
Indeed, indeed. And we do see a cheeky head-on play for the unhook. Unfortunately, though, Bubba not caring for BT and does get the down on Giraffe off the hook. And it looked like a power struggle also just went off. So these survivors being a little bit cheeky, to say the least.
Yeah, and this was exactly what we wanted, too.
So definitely loving to see some power struggle plays, loving some head-on, these survivors having a bit of fun. And, Killer playing along to some degree. We do see the Bamboozle from the Bubs, as they are looking to try and go for Shelby once again. But also looking around, seeing if maybe survivors might be on gens, which we do see one gen off in this instance go off.
We do, but it's actually, now that I'm looking at it, it does look like it sort of helped a little bit within the 3-gen placement. However, there still is a pretty decent 3-gen on either side of the map, because as we can kind of tell, there really isn't any gens in the middle of the map.
Yeah, sometimes RNG just ain't in your favor, and we see that here, where there is 4-gen basically on this side of the map. So Bubba, sitting strong here on this hook, as we do see Giraffe about to move into Death Hook, and that will be the first survivor out of this match for the Bubba.
Rest in peace, Giraffe. You don't even get to play the game, especially in that match.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bubba just wasn't a fan of power struggle. It's like, okay, cheeky play, you die for that though.
Right? It's just like, okay, you know what? I'll give you some props, but you know what? You die for it.
Exactly. And it looks like Bubba trying to get this survivor up onto the hill. And we do see a speedy Bubba, but not speedy enough. Agitation just not able to get the survivor to that hook in time. And Bubba paying for that moment with a stun. But we'll take a survivor off the gen instead, and also a pal to boot.
One person down with this kind of a gen setup. I mean, to be fair, the match was already over. The survivors here were just playing for fun at this point, playing for pride, so to speak, even. But it's a bit of a rough situation here for sure.
Absolutely. But it looks like it will get the next pallet, but I will mention that I think that's pretty much the last pallet in this area, in that this is going to turn into a quite significant of a dead zone, as Bubba will try and go for the chainsaw, blocking the Nancy from entering the locker.
I feel like the Bubba knew what was coming and what the play was, and so he was just like, yeah, no, we're not going to let you do that.
Indeed, and unfortunate for how do we get here, that gen was pretty close to being depleted. But unfortunately, Pop Goes Weasel will regress that by upwards of 20 seconds.
Rest in peace, that gen. But as we do say that, they do manage to get a gen on the other side of the map then.
Indeed. But if we're looking here, we do see 2 survivors at this point in time, so that's the last survivors on this map. They will get down on Shelby, and are now going to be going for the mech to get the 3-man down and the 4K, as one survivor has already been eliminated.
Yeah, this was a bit of a rip GG here for sure.
It would appear that way, unfortunately. And now Bubba looking around for the last survivor. Only saving grace here would be a deliverance play, but I think that would be like putting a bandage over a gunshot wound, as Shelby will end up on second hook, and Omegalo moving on to second stage, and that there will be the game. points for How Do We Get Here, and 42 points for Sacred Devotion. And in a final score of 49 for How Do We Get Here, and 171 for Sacred Devotion. And a GG well played to both teams. And congratulations to Sacred Devotion for their victory.
Yep, that is a GG well played to both teams. Some good performances from both sides, albeit a bit unfortunate for the side of How Did We Get Here. They still did at times, though, do some really good things, show some really good strides of progress and stuff like that, so it's hats off to them.
Indeed, indeed. But with that being said, that there will be the end of today's stream. As I did mention earlier, we'll be live once again at 10 a.m. CST on the 30th, 1 week from now. So definitely make sure to stop on by and say hi. But Joker, before we do go, if chat here want to go say hi next time you're live over on Twitch, where would they find you?
They will find me at twitch.tv/j0k3rax400. Yes, I know it's a little bit wordy and it's a bit weird with all the numbers. But that, once again, is j0k3rax400.
Awesome, awesome. And if that being said, I think we're gonna go raid another one of our hosts / co-hosts, Sergeant Fidget, which I believe is hosting or co-hosting a tournament. So with that being said, as always, if you guys did enjoy the show, I am your commissioner and your primary host, Giltspire. Definitely make sure to stop on by and say hi on Monday when we'll be live once again for some more Dead by Daylight. With that being said, we'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye!